Dear all, a very warm welcome to the Legrand Presents webinar on integration of technology and design for smart spaces, organized by Realty Masterclass. Friends, as we all know, architecture and design are applied sciences that utilize research and development in technology to propel their work. The session today brings to you acclaimed international and national designers to share their knowledge and expertise on the latest in the world of design, architecture, and technology. I'm Sapna Srivastava, editor Realty Plus magazine, and let's begin the day's proceedings with a brief introduction of Realty Plus.
Some people are born to show the world which path to choose in a crisis. Some brands are born to do the same. And during the times of challenge, the stalwarts of Indian real estate industry have chosen to do just that by showing others the way to finding opportunities even amidst a crisis. By showing the world how to go about delivering on promises even amidst adversity. Success doesn't just happen, it happens by design, by pushing the boundaries, by raising the bar. It's days of creating a vision and nights of bringing it to life. Knowing that pictures are worth 1,000 words and every word makes a difference. It's doing the research, trusting your instinct and finishing what you started. For the past 17 years, Realty Plus has been turning obstacles into opportunities, keeping the industry informed on the latest developments. Innovating to inspire debate and discussion. Bringing forth the perspectives of industry leaders. Honoring hard work and achievement. Keeping the industry connected. This is what we are built on. This is what we are building. We are Realty Plus, and we lead the way.
So this was a brief snippet of what Realty Plus does and its products. So now moving on to the program of the day, I welcome architect Giovanni Podesta, director at Studio Fuxas. With 15 years of extensive global leadership experience in architecture and design, Giovanni Podesta holds a master's degree in architecture from Polytechnic of Milan. In 2017, he joined Studio Fuxas, which is one of the most outstanding international architectural firms in the world. With headquarters in Rome, Paris, Shenzhen, and Dubai, the practice has completed more than 600 projects and has worked in Europe, Africa, America, Asia, and Australia. Some of the major projects handled by Giovanni Podesta include Madonna delle Grazie Parish Complex Milan, Cultural and Sports Complex at Rende, Landscape and Urban Renovation at Home Square Milan, School Complex at Carte Brianza, and Post-Earthquake School Complex at L'Aquila. So this was a brief introduction of our eminent speaker, architect Giovanni Podesta. A very warm welcome to you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for your kind invitation and for your, let's say, perfect introduction. The topic we are going to discuss today is very, let's say, interesting to us because we are always open in our project to the most innovative technologies, both technologies applied to the design process and technologies seen as tools or devices to be applied to the building, or let's say to the final output of our design. That can be a building, as said, or let's say landscape furniture or product. So what I would like to do today is just to share some of our most recent projects, trying to decode how the technology and how somehow the innovation were part of the process of the design or the process of the construction. And this is one of our last project. It's the subway station in Naples. The process was kind of long because we worked on basically an historical city center in Italy, meaning that as soon as they dig the first cubic meter of earth, of soil, they found some rests, and so we had to adapt the project, but somehow we improve it. And this is also interesting because it's like you basically something that was how can I say unexpected, make you, let's say, make you in the condition to do a better project. And so this is the part of the project that is unchanged. So the idea was to have a sort of multimedia subway station with lights and colors that change according to the time, according to the weather. So again, you are underground, but actually since in this case, you cannot have spots of what happened outside, you cannot have natural light, also because in Naples, the subway station is very deep because of the geological condition. So it's not like Shenzhen that you can play with natural light. So here the trick was to then use colors and light and changing to make you feel what happened outside. Okay, so this is the part that is unchanged. And then there's a part that is changed, that is the one that you see in the previous video, where basically we designed how can I say, a sort of museum, a sort of exhibition space around the rests that they have found of all the Roman villas. So it's funny or interesting, this sort of dichotomy between the proper subway station space, which is something like innovative look or future feeling with these lights, this color, etc., this LED system, and the showcase of the Roman rest, or a window to the past. So it's like a future environment with some spotlight to the past. So the combination of these two aspects make this project particularly, let's say, successful and interesting. So the picture that you have seen are underground, and is the, let's say, futuristic part that is already open to the public. And above ground, we are still working to create this showcase or this window to the history. We are like showing the last projects, last couple of projects. This is the Armani Fifth Avenue. This project is not very recent, but at that time was very futuristic for two reasons. The first one is the facade was one of the first LED facade that changed color and lights, but especially for this stair. This stair was developed, this is the facade I mentioned. The stair inside, which is definitely the light, was developed with a sort of innovative system at that time. So basically was very hard to control. The 3D software was necessary, but hard to control in terms of design language, design, let's say, quality. So what we did, we built it as a sculpture. So we built it with a physical model. So manually, it was like sort of handcraft. And then basically we 3D scan it, we transfer it to the 3D software, then we fine tune it, like we clean it up and we discretize it and standardize it, which is a passage that is fundamental if you don't want to stay on paper, but if you want to see realized buildings as we want. And so yeah, that's the result, and was necessary passage because in the small scale, making this kind of process, so the physical model, then the 3D model with the discretization, and then the discussion with the manufacturer or the contractor, give you the feeling of the constructability. So even though you are a sort of advanced design architect, as someone says that Fuchsas is, you really, if you don't want to stay on paper, as we say, but you want to be a real architect, you need to have this sense of constructability from the very beginning. And this balance is very hard because on one side, you don't want to, let's say, squeeze your creativity. But on the other side, you know that you are designing for the construction, even though it's a competition. So, or you are in a concept design stage. So finding this balance is definitely part of the, I would say, the maturity, part of the, growth of an architect. This was the last project I like to present. And I'm sorry if I went a bit longer, but really would like to present at best our latest or most important projects. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Giovanni. That was indeed a very wonderful presentation and some very interesting points highlighted. Let me now request Ms. Milka Escola, Director Design, Legrand Group, to join us and share her presentation. Ms. Milka Escola joined the Legrand Group as Group Vice President, Art and Design in 2013. Of Finnish nationality, living in Italy and working with a global team, she combines international culture with a passion for creating meaningful experiences for users that build a sustainable tomorrow. Milka has 2 degrees in Industrial Design, BA Honors from Lahti Institute of Design, Finland, and MSID from the Art Center College of Design in Pasadena, California. Ms. Milka Escola, a very warm welcome, and I hand it over to you now to share your views on the design philosophy of Legrand.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. I will start right away and share my screen. Okay, thank you. So I wanted to spend a little bit of time to talk about what's behind the design of Legrand products. And we like to call our approach, as we say, designed by life. Because indeed, we don't start from the product in itself, but we start from life situations and spaces, so that we understand the needs of the people in these spaces and how we can then facilitate them with the right technology. So let's see what that actually means. You know for sure that we have a long history with design. So starting from the 30s with porcelain switches, going all the way to the latest technologies. Here are a few international examples of things that we've done throughout the years, but it would be impossible to put them all in. Some highlights perhaps are interesting to see how we have also always followed the latest trends. So if you look at the example of Amboise in the 60s, we introduced the new material of bakelite at the time, which was a novelty. In the 90s, we started the new line of mosaic with a lot of modularity. You can see the trends of design in Sagan that becomes more curvy. We start introducing interesting materials in our products and so on. So this is just to show with a few examples that we're always looking into the trends in materials, trends in technologies, trends in the way that our lifestyle changes. And that's why it's super important for us to understand what's going on in the world. And we are always looking into architecture, interiors, and lifestyle to then adapt our product lines accordingly. Then if we look at how we then work, we have a 25 people team around the world. We're in the US, in Europe, in India, and in China. So we have a good amount of international people around, so that this is very, very important for us, because we are a global brand, so we need to cater towards all audiences, and our cultures are different, our habits are different. So by having people and designers that work with people in all these different regions, we can guarantee that our products are then applied to many different people. So it's really according to the cultures. If we talk about our creative process, it really is about design by life. So it's coming from the aspect of understanding how people live, what they do in their lives, what they do in their spaces. What we do is we go and we ask people, we observe them, we understand their needs, and then what we do is we create some concepts, some ideas, and we go back to them and test them to understand if the ideas that we're thinking about are really responding to their needs. So it's really not a linear process, it's more an iterative process, which is quite interesting, and that guarantees that our products are really matching the needs when they arrive into the market. So this kind of cyclical phase is very, very important. And also we do the testing not only in where we design them, perhaps the product is designed in Europe, but we also test them. We take the time to test them in different cultures, in different countries. So also we make sure that the habits in different countries are then taken into consideration. Then in terms of the design language, we saw some very nice, interesting examples from the Fuchsa studio just now. And we have to be somewhere between the geometric approach and the organic approach. So we try to merge the two. And we've defined a kind of a space in between, which we call georganic. So depending on the space, depending on the necessity, we can then do a more geometric style design, or we can be a little bit more soft and more kind of expressive on the organic side. So we have this space and the flexibility between the two to then really cater to the right context and the right use case. And what's really guiding us, and that's why the link with architecture is so interesting, is that we really design products per spaces. So if we're talking about living spaces, we design for kind of a living style environment where we take care of choosing the right type of materials, the right types of shapes that maybe talk more about kind of comfort and wellness, whereas in a workspace it's more about simplicity and the easy understandability of our projects, because we have many people that are using many different types of people, so we make sure that simplicity is the driver. Or if we go into digital spaces, we really need to look into the kind of efficiency and time, the amount of time that people, the people that work in these spaces for maintenance and so on, have the right tools, have the right information at hand. So it's really about time saving and ergonomy. So this is kind of the context that we build in all our projects. And if we go into talking about living now, which is the topic of today, I can show you what was the process and how we then came up with the final design. So here, if we talk about inspiration, our inspiration was really in architecture. So here we can see how modern architecture is really kind of driving our design, because our products are a complement to the architecture. They're the kind of the technology, the functionality of the use of the space. So we need to respect what's happening in modern architecture. And here we see simple lines with kind of graphic lines, which you can also see in the product. We obviously look into interiors that is then more driving what we choose for the colors and finishes on our products. We see a trend today that there is a lot of interiors that are changing, that are kind of warming up. So it's not maybe the cool colors, the whites and so on, but we see a lot of warming up of the colors. We also see some real materials. We see darker tones. So this is also something that we took into account. And then last but not least, we of course look into objects, on technology, on the latest trends in terms of screens and other technological products that we see in the spaces where we will be using our products. And if we look at this context, what we were seeing before, we had the functions were always in this kind of small window, and we had a frame around. But what we wanted to do with the kind of change that we see that is happening in architecture and the lifestyle of people, we wanted to really create a kind of an experience that talks about an interface. So an interface of the home. So that's why we expanded the area of the controls, so that it's not necessarily only inside a window, but it actually uses the whole vertical space in the middle. And here you can see what advantages it gives us, because we have added space for all our products. So this is really, really great for the thermostat, for example. So we have more space for better readability of the temperature and so on. So it's really giving us a big advantage and a true sensation that this is an interface for the home. In terms of the design, we wanted to go into something that is very truly monolithic. So it's something that is part of the architecture. It really integrates well into the background, and it only has these very fine lines that determine the functional space in the middle. This was a great challenge for our engineers, because it's not so easy to have something that then always perfectly comes back to the surface and is completely planar at every time, but we manage. So very proud of that. Talking about details, when you do a very monolithic, very simplistic design, if you want to enrich it, you need to kind of do some very small kind of details and have real attention in terms of all of this. And that's something that we created, we worked a lot on in terms of our finishings and in our offer. For the basic colors, we have 3 different colors. We have white, we have sand, and we have black. So these are the colors that all the mechanisms have. So here we're again responding to the trends. White is an everlasting success. The black is responding to the latest trends that I was referring to, with more colors and more darker finishes. Whereas the sand is the novelty, truly, because we have a color that can match with all the different tones that are around, like around the beiges, the light grays, and so on. It's very harmonious to put on the wall. If you think about any color that is off-white, if you put a white product on top of it, it just stands out. But with the sand, you actually harmonize the color, and the integration is better inside the space. If we look at the palette that we have for the colors, we have 16 finishes, which go from a very light tones to the dark ones. We have real materials, we have real metal, we have real wood. We have some shiny finishes for more technological feel. So we believe that with this quite tight palette, we can still celebrate a lot of different things and play a lot. Here's a few examples. If you think about the space in terms of soft tones, you can imagine all of these 4 finishes could do a different kind of matching inside the space. So whether it's the color of the wall or the color of the rug or a material, you can always find a complementary in the space. And another example could be the one that we talk about that is happening a lot. That is, there's a lot of natural materials, a need for nature, perhaps also due to the specific context that we've been living in the past few years. But there's a real yearning for natural things. So that's why we also inside the palette we have the real woods that can match really well in these kinds of interiors. As a reminder of the success story that we have an award-winning design that we're very proud to already have some external appreciation on that. We have the smart features that are obviously designed to match the current needs of a modern lifestyle. And we have the leading edge innovation that Emanuela will talk about a little bit later. So with these 3, we really believe that the final design is designed by life. And I want to thank you for your time, and looking forward to a fruitful discussion.
Thanks, Ms. Milka Escola, for that very informative presentation and for setting the tone of the day. So as you said, yes, let's move on to the very interesting panel discussion of the day. And let me introduce our eminent speaker joining from New Delhi, India. Let me welcome architect Amit Khanna, design principal, AKDA, who is also an urbanist and an educator. Architect Khanna is Bachelor in Architecture from School of Planning and Architecture, New Delhi, and MSc in Sustainable Urban Development from University of Oxford, UK. The work of his firm integrates architecture, construction, and sustainability, producing award-winning and globally recognized buildings. His special focus is on the transformation of cities. So let us now have all our eminent speakers on stage for an interactive discussion on the topic of integration of technology and design for smart spaces. Can we have Mr. Giovanni also on our screen?
I am.
Yes. Okay. So great. Milka, we'll start with you. You just now said that how innovation, is the basis for the Legrand products. What are the challenges that you face when you are striking a balance between technology, the aesthetics, as you talked about, and the ease of use? So what are the challenges that you have to face when you are balancing all these 3?
I think it's thanks for the interesting question. I think it's really about, as I said, it's the selection is quite easy because life makes the change. People make the change. People make the difference. So that's why it's so important for us to test our solutions. Technology is something that we're often very much fascinated about because the newest technology is like the newest of the new. But sometimes the technology is fascinating, but it's not necessarily responding to the real need of the people. So it's sometimes it's difficult to understand. Sometimes it's cool, but it's maybe more of a gadget kind of thing. So we like to kind of choose the technologies that we use that are really useful for the people. So we really need to be very careful in terms of like what wave we take in terms of technology. And then, of course, the aesthetics, as I mentioned, is more related to the space that we have around. So that's why we are complementary to the space. We're not protagonists. We are the interface of the house. So we need to make sure that we are in sync with the architecture. We are simple to use. And then we have the right technology that then responds to the needs of the current state of being.
Yeah, so that's quite a tough job for the engineers at Legrand, I'm sure. Giovanni, you also spoke about flexible architecture. You gave us, some of the examples where technology had enabled the designs. As you said, the ideas in the mind were brought to reality with the help of technology. In terms of how these smart connected systems can, enable, again, bringing nature to the built spaces, making environmental friendly spaces. How do you see that synergy?
Yeah, you said like environmental friendly, correct? But I think that there is also another way to, how can I say, to take advantage from these electronic system and devices. I mentioned, talking about flexibility, I mentioned the flexibility, or let's say a change of perspective for the residential spaces, for example. And last year during the pandemic, and especially during the lockdown, when we basically activated inside the office a think tank to study possible solution or how to react, or how the spaces will be, let's say, affected and will change because, or I would say in a way, thanks to the pandemic. So, and then, okay, transportation architecture is one thing, workplaces is another thing, but focusing on the domestic spaces, we start to develop this concept of the no hospital houses, meaning that the domestic spaces, thanks to the most advanced technological system, can be also really the frontier, the front line of the prevention. So having in the, okay, we are talking about research, not like market products at the moment, but in the future of the residential spaces, probably is written in a way that you will have in your house a space dedicated to the healing, dedicated to the wellness, or dedicated to the healthcare through, let's say, purification, air purification system that are embedded in the house, through medical avatar systems. So staying at your place, you can be visited by maybe, I don't know, the top doctor from Harvard University, whatever, just staying at home because of this medical avatar, which is the projection of yourself. So, you know, in these cases, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, domotic is definitely the frontier, is definitely the next step for the progress of the
so that's the future of artificial intelligence, and not having doctor to visit us, but our avatar can be there to have the consultation.
Yeah, I think that sorry, just a second. I think that Mika said something very interesting, that technology is something that should support the needs, shouldn't create the needs, because in a sort of marketing let's say rule and kingdom where we live, it's technology that creates the need. Actually, no, technology has to be the answer for the need. So talking about medical avatar means that there is a human, there is a doctor, I don't know, oversee that able to visit you, but it's not a machine that do it.
That's
this
right.
is, let's say, a red line that we shouldn't cross. Otherwise, we will.
That human element has to be there.
Yeah, definitely, always.
Yes,
always.
yes.
Yeah.
Amit, you heard both the speakers, and Giovanni spoke about flexible architecture that should change with the need and the functions that are going to be required, demanding from the spaces. You heard Milka, she spoke about the gadget should not be there just for the sake of being a gadget, but they should have a purpose behind it. So what is your opinion, how tech and design can work together for holistic living, for us?
So I think there are two avenues of this confluence. I think there is the residential sector, and then of course there is the non-residential, which is industrial or commercial or hospitality. I think the integration of technology in our interaction with our space, as far as residential is concerned, is being led by companies that aren't necessarily technology companies, but are more related to the media of it, like Giovanni mentioned, that it's driven to us. So, for instance, we can switch on and off our lights using, Google Home and Amazon Alexa, etc. The non-residential sector, which is, I think where the bulk of architecture gets made, is far more interesting as far as I'm concerned. There we find that automation has a genuine use of being able to make the building more energy responsive as far as the weather is concerned, as far as climate is concerned, as far as human occupancy is concerned. For me, that's far more interesting because that genuinely drives down how much impact a building has on the environment. If you have a building that can respond to active occupancy or active weather conditions, then it makes for a much more interesting building. Giovanni mentioned that, it has to come from the need rather than simply for the sake of, doing the project. I think that there is an incredible opportunity at this point for buildings to be much, much smarter than they currently are. I think buildings are currently put together in a very traditional way, where the architect sits at the top of a pyramid and he decides everything. I think going forward that's not likely to be the case. I think the pyramid is going to be led by somebody who probably designs the services of the building. The architect is somebody who sits somewhere in the middle, making sure it all comes together. Because at the end of the day, the building needs to be a responsive shell for whatever activity is going to take place in it. And coming, picking up again from what Giovanni said earlier, that last year has proved that our homes can act both as offices, as healthcare facilities, as homes for us. And so if our homes had the ability to adapt to our varying needs, for me, that's far more interesting.
Okay, that's great. As many architects say, these are the Giovanni. My next question is to you. You briefly touched upon the wellness part of it. So just wanted to, what is your opinion on the digital approach to interiors in terms of human centricity, in terms of human wellness? How do you look at that?
Well, this is part of the answer actually already given before. It's definitely a sort of next step. Actually, it's already a current step, let's say, but it will be more and more, let's say, common, and more, let's say, a sort of parameter that we need to take in consideration in the interior design. But really, I want to refer again to what Mika said. So the risk is the gadgetization of the technology into the architecture, and especially into the interior design, and especially interior design for domestic spaces. So definitely, it's something that has to be taken in consideration, especially for the producers, because being a gadget is still something that sells the tools. But I think, yes, it's part of the challenge for the designer. Pick the solution that are really, let's say, a progress for the overall quality and overall wellness and comfort of the inhabitants, let's say, and let's say put aside what is just, funny instruments. I think that also referring to what Amit said, I think that I would let's say move a bit forward. So it's not just wellness, but I will start to talk about healthcare works, or something even more, let's say, urgent as need for our houses. So not just, because I think that once we move for like more specific and fundamental functions, let's say, then the risk of gadgetized the technological system is reduced, let's say, because You go to something necessary, you go to something that you want that it works, you want that is useful, and that is make your life simpler, basically.
Okay,
And
fantastic. What Giovanni here is saying, that technology, yes, can enable, in terms of our interiors, in terms of our living experience. So that is what is most important. Milka, you also spoke about, you're testing your products for various regions because it's a global brand. It's, across the country. How do you ensure, what are the kind of experiments or what kind of experiences that you take in account so that the product is relevant for different lifestyles across the globe? How do you do that?
Yeah, it's a challenge, but I think it's really about a user-centric approach where we include users already very early in the process. So it's not about, like we've already done everything and then we just at the end we kind of test that it's okay, but it's really about including and co-creating with them from the start to understand what are really the needs. So what we do is we organize design sprints at the very early stage of the process. We include key profiles that will be end users and clients very early on. We do testing with them. We do like really quick ideation and then test rough ideas already very early on, and then we move on with more further development. Whereas we then, retest them once we're a little bit further along, because it's fine to talk about the needs and so on, but we also have to take into consideration the technologies, the industrial possibilities, and so on. So we obviously it's a combination of these things. What we do usually is we do testing in several countries at the same time. So we make sure that also it's internationally kind of tested, that the habits are not necessarily completely different. And this to me is also very important.
That's right. Amit, coming to you, again, we have spoken about, Giovanni spoken about digital approach to interiors. As a product designer, Milka spoke about how they take into account different lifestyles across countries when they are designing their products. How do you see this entire IoT connected, smart infrastructure impacting from the basic unit, our residences, in our private spaces, to a larger context of smart spaces? I know it's a huge question, but just your crisp thought on that. How this entire future looks like to you?
So as far as the residential sector is concerned, I think that although the technology is there, I think there is a slower adoption by the technology because of the lack of standardization. If you have, if you have a mobile phone, there's only one of 3 chargers that you can put in your mobile phone, right? Unfortunately, when it comes to the automation industries, there's a whole lot of standards that are still floating around. There is, without getting into too many details, every manufacturer follows their own protocols. We have wired protocols and then you have wireless protocols, and there are subsections within both. I think what happens currently is that you have to buy into a brand, and then you have to follow its ecosystem in order to extract maximum benefit from it. You can sort of patch together something. You can have switches from one brand, and you can have a hub from the other, and you can have speakers from the third and air conditioning controls from the fourth. That sort of works. I think the legacy systems that we used to use as architects maybe 5-10 years ago were whole house systems developed by brands that did sort of automation end to end. I think that space has got a lot of potential for standardization, and I think that once that standardization comes in, there will be a sort of an explosion in demand.
Okay.
As far as the commercial sector is concerned, I just want to say that the technology is in place because it's much less likely to be a patchwork. it's far more likely to be a single provider. And I think building information management systems are already way ahead of what private residential can be.
That's right. So, standardization and interoperability between different devices, different systems is what will kind of take this entire IoT connected future further. And I think we are going to see more intelligent buildings now. My question to all our speakers is: does design shape technology, or technology influences design? Giovanni, starting from you, what do you feel?
Well, this is a philosophical question. It's not actually both sides. I mean, I tried to explain during our presentation that from our perspective as designer, as architectural designer, technology is not something, I mean, we face technology not only as a device to be integrated into the building as final object, but we face technology from the very early stages, because technology changed completely the approach and the way to design. Today, we see things built that, I don't know, 20 years ago was not even possible to, let's say, draw in a way, to technically draw it. Maybe it was possible to sketch it. Maybe it was possible to have, let's say, a sort of conceptual image. But till 20 years ago, maybe it was not even possible to have a proper technical drawing of something, And nowadays, we can easily build it. The projects that I will show you, okay, some are very, still very complex. Shenzhen Airport is still kind of complex. Galen, if you haven't seen the pictures of the interior ceiling that I described, but that is still very complex. But for example, project as the Jiaoxin Tower, that now we look at it and we say, I like it, I don't like it, nice, interesting, the filter of the sun, but it's not like how you have done it 20 years ago or 15 years ago. The question for professionals, of course, the question was, okay, how you have done it, how it was possible to build it in, I don't know, 3 months of installation. So definitely technology, let's say, influences a lot the design process. It's so, let's say, hybridized the process that it's impossible nowadays says who influence, if it's technology that influences design or the opposite, from our point of view as architectural design.
It's like a chicken and egg kind of a story. So Milka, still we will take your views. How do you feel, as Giovanni said, it's more like integration. It's more like how one enables the other. So what is your view on that?
I think technology is an opportunity, and then as I mentioned also before, I mean, it should not be the guide only, or it's a means to. I liked what Giovanni said earlier about there's no limit in creativity, there's no limit in ideas, and that's what the design is. So technology for me is a facilitator to then make these ideas come true, and to build solutions that then make sense for people, because it's again, I mean, if we do technology for technology's sake, or even design just for design's sake, just out of beauty or whatever, it's less interesting. When it's really resonating with the people that use it, that's when it becomes interesting. Technology is a facilitator for that, but it can also be something that then creates new ideas. So again, it is really a chicken and an egg.
Okay, so technology can be a facilitator, but it can also be a source of creating new ideas. Amit Khanna, question comes to you. Does design shape technology, or technology influences design?
So I think as a designer, if you think you act in a void, I think that's a misconception. Since both our guest speakers are from Rome, I mean, if Bernini or Borromini had access to, steel and concrete the way we do, Rome would have looked like a very different place. I mean, it's not that Bernini couldn't do it, but he didn't have the technology to do it, right? And so the reason why perhaps, Fuxas designs in a certain way as a studio is because it has this ecosystem within which it can use all of this information, which Bernini didn't have access to 500 years ago. So we are an outcome of our creativity, but also our ecosystem.
Okay, so it's all matter of what we have at hand. So whether it is technology, whether it is materials, and that is how the ideas or the architecture gets shaped. Yes, the ideas are there, but then again, what are the materials or the technologies that we have at hand also influences design. So that was what our speakers have to say. We will take the audience questions as well, but just before that, let me welcome Ms. Manuela Figliosi, Brand Marketing Manager, Legrand Group, to join us and share with us a brief presentation on Living Now that has just been launched in India. Friends, Living Now is India's first intrinsically connected wiring devices range, and Ms. Emanuela will take us through some of the key highlights of the brand.
Yes, good morning to everybody. Also from me, it's really a pleasure to be here today to present Living Now. Now, let me know if you see my screen.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, and it will be from my side very interesting to see how this project is consistent with what all the speakers explain till now. So let's start. As Milka anticipated,
Emanuela, we can't see your screen, the presentation.
Oh, sorry. I try again. Now it works?
Yes, we have it there.
Okay, great. Sorry for that. So, speaking about the key elements of the project, as Milka explained before, there is of course a strong part that is relating to design, to the aesthetics, that is so pure and so essential. The second element, very strong, is technology, but technology in the way you explained before. So a technology that makes possible a new scenario and make possible to answer to new customer needs. And we'll see later how. And of course, innovation and quality, because in terms in all the product aspects that sometimes are not so visible to the end user, but it exists and it's so hard also to develop. About design, I don't want to repeat what Milka explained very well before, but just to focus on two points of excellence that we think can make the difference compared to for our customer, for the users. The first is the full touch. Because and it's really a new way to use the switch. This new full touch allows to switch on and off the light in each position, and the final design is always flat. Always flat on the wall. So after the innovation with Axolute in the past with Axial, we move forward in this way. And the second element is the floating frame that has, of course, a relevance in terms of design, because it makes the cover plate like floating on the wall, but it has also a functional and technical aspects. And again, also on a cover plate, it's clear how much design and technology are together. It allows it is a flexible details that allows a perfect installation on each kind of wall and boxes. So it's really a detail, not so evident, but very important to the global results of the product once it is installed on the wall. Moving from technology. So technology for us is very important because it's really the enabling factor that improves lives and amplify the user experience in the house. We historically have the home automation technology in our ranges, and also the traditional part. With this new project with the Living Now, we boost and we add something new. So the smart solution, the IoT, and of course we improve and we work a lot to improve and to give more possibility in terms of home automation with the new exclusive interfaces. I'd like to start from the smart part, explaining how the reason why it is so important for us. It's really a way using the standard cabling, so not nothing special, not special skills also for the installers, to move from the traditional function to the value added one, and thinking to what we heard before, that is not the technology is not funny, but it has to be useful. On the smart part of this project, we focus on the main function, so the function that are always relevant in installation, so lights, energy, and shutter, of course, according to different countries, are important. And on this key function, we improve the user experience for our customers. So of course it's possible to have a physical control, but also the smart for one, and it's probably the more important news, also the voice control. So here I put an overview of the main benefits and the user cases that as architect you can propose to your customer, and you see it's not something funny, but it's something very useful in the day-by-day life of people. So in addition to the different way to control the function, we have the possibility to check for example, the energy consumption, or receive alarm notification, or to move a control thanks to the wireless technology in the best position in the room, so change the position. So it's really something that studying the habits and as Milka explained, the habits of people and customer, we find that are very, very appreciated. Of course, the voice control, it's the more iconic way to control the installation, and thanks to technology, so the IoT, that enable and make possible the connection between our system and the common speaker, the devices that of other competitor or of other producer. And so there is this kind of interoperability between our product and outside. How is possible? Because I'm not speaking yet of home automation, but something traditional. It is possible, all of that is possible thanks to few intelligent devices to be added into the traditional system. You see perfectly integrated with the wiring devices, so not gadget, not plug and play product, but really well integrated in the wiring devices. And of course, there is the main function that makes all possible the interoperability with the app and also the smart speakers are the gateway. That is, I can say, the intelligent part of the system. So this is what the smart and IoT technology can do. And of course, people and customer is free to personalize it, to customize the scenario. About home automation. Home automation is for Legrand Group. Is not new. The Legrand Group is investing a lot since many years on that. But with Living Now, and again, thanks to technology that enabling some new scenario and interfaces, we really think to have realized some really exclusive and unique on the market. You see that how is strong and impressive these two interfaces. The first, and maybe it's the more iconic product, is the voice control. So the voice of what we call the voice of home automation, because you see that in this product we were able to embed Alexa, Amazon Alexa, but it's completely integrated and embedded in a Living Now design. So we think that for example, for architects, it's very important, because we could install the voice control in each room, for example, but completely flash mounted, so integrated in the wiring device aesthetics, and without having the standalone product as everyone, I think, of us has at home. So it's really an iconic product that allows to all the function of Alexa, Amazon, and of course to control our system. The second one I wish to point out the attention is the new touch, so the new digital control. You see that in this case, all the surface becomes an interface, and again, is something very meaningful for the customer, because he's free, thanks to the app, to create and personalize the interface, to add, for example, control on the same boxes from 3 control to 4. So it's really flexible. And also to move, so to change the controller from one position to another in the same room or in the same houses without touching the wiring. So it's something very flexible and evolutive, and again, the technology is the way to do all of that. To finish, let me spend 1 or 2 minutes to explain how much innovation and study and quality there is also behind, because till now I show you something very let me say, evident for also the end user and when products are installed in the wall. But to make it, we work a lot to also on the behind to make it possible. And all the interfaces, so the voice control, the digital control, and the full touch are possible, for example, thanks to this new innovative architecture that, as you can see, the functional part is completely separated to the aesthetical one. So it's possible first to do the cabling of all the devices and then to add the aesthetical part. In this way, you can imagine that even if we keep the modularity and all the advantages of the product, we are free to play and to push innovation in terms of user interface. And last, few tips that is always not visible, just to explain how much study and excellence there is also behind with this kind of project. So we improve really the performances of the super frame, the floating, the flat, and so the full touch is possible thanks to the self-centering system that make possible the perfect alignment between the switches and the cover plates in every condition. And then the floating frame that there is a part of installation, there is evident the technical part that allows to our product be always perfect on the wall. So these are really a few tips to show how many study there is also behind. So this is living now, and now it's up to you to discover, to play and to enjoy with him. So thank you.
Thank you, Manuela, for that very informative and explanatory presentation. Now, as I mentioned, let's take some questions from our audience for our speakers of the day. Can we have our speakers on the screen? Ms. Milka and Architect Giovanni there. So, our first question that has come is, Giovanni, you spoke, you had given in your presentation the cloud building, which became a very, a unique or a very useful building for the COVID vaccinations. So one of the questions that comes is, how has pandemic impacted building designs and constructions? What has been the impact of pandemic as a designer?
Sorry, I don't get you. Can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, the question is, how has pandemic influenced or impacted the building designs and construction? What is the future, designs and construction that we will see, the changes that we will see that the pandemic has brought in?
Yeah, I said like the key word for this answer is flexibility. I try to explain this concept. Basically, the story of the nuvola, the cloud, teach us that what you don't really know what your building will be used to in the future. So there must be a certain grade of reinvention, flexibility, how can I say, mystery in a way around your, especially if it's a public infrastructure, because really you never know, the condition can change. We can face emergencies that can be health emergency or energy supply emergency, or even, let's say, public security emergency. Therefore, especially this big public infrastructure cannot be monofunctional in a way and cannot be rigid. So we have to learn how in the design process to, let's say, produce an object that is not, let's say, monodimensional in terms of function. This is definitely the lesson of the pandemic.
Okay, so one lesson that Giovanni gives us is that buildings can no longer be monodimensional. They have to be multifunctional and disaster resilient. Amit, coming to you, again, how do you feel? We are talking about livable cities, sustainable cities, smart cities. So, what has pandemic taught us?
Well, I think the pandemic has taught us that you really can't predict what's going to come. I think that, like Giovanni said, your buildings have to be both resilient and flexible going forward. In the Indian context, I'd like to add that we're facing the greatest wave of urbanization ever seen, and we're going to add 400 million people to our cities in less than 20 years. We have to do a lot of building. Our cities are going to expand, our cities are going to grow bigger, and we're going to have newer cities coming up. That the amount of building activity that happens in India, outstrips all other markets by, a large factor. I think the key learning here is that, the pandemic has given us a moment to sort of pause and reflect on the insanity of what it is that we're doing. And hopefully, architects are more grounded in the sense that they will have a sense of what it means to make a building, like Giovanni said, that it's all very well to put up a 60,000 square meter building, for commercial purposes, etc. But you really don't know what is going to go on in these buildings 5-10 years from now as the pressure on the land increases. So yeah, I think the key is to behave responsibly. I mean, that's one takeaway that I would add.
Okay, so one is that change is inevitable. It can happen anytime. And in terms of Indian scenario, we have huge infrastructure yet to build. So there are a lot of things that we can get right now after taking all these learnings from the pandemic. Milka, coming to you, you have spoken about technology, how the products are being made user-friendly. A lot of buildings are now contactless. Fully automated. So how do you see the entire human wellness coming into picture with all these, contactless operations happening in the buildings?
I think it's obviously it's on everybody's lips. I mean, we do products that we're supposed to touch every day, and nobody wants to touch things anymore. So this is obviously a challenge for us. But I think there's a lot of future for sensors and all kinds of things. And as Amit was saying correctly, I mean, there's a lot of space in terms of automation. But we need to be very, very careful about that, because automation is good when it's actually helping us, when it's doing something that we actually want it to do. But a lot of times automation is doing something that we don't want it to do at a certain time when we don't want it to do something, and we have no means to then access or change it. So I think the challenge for designers is to then make this connection, so that there's also feedback, because there's a gap between the technology that is doing something and an algorithm that is deciding for us things that we are absolutely not interested in, and we have no way to change that. So we have to kind of humanize this kind of automation so that it's not robotic, but it's actually based on real beings, and that's the big challenge that we need to consider in the future.
I think that's the key word, humanizing technology. That is very important. So one question that has come from our audience is, what are the top 2 or 3 technologies that are going to change architecture going forward? Giovanni, let's take it, start with you. What are the top 2 or 3 technologies that you think are going to change architecture? You are on mute.
Firstly, we already talk about AI, or artificial intelligence, which is, let's say, a big umbrella with a lot of meanings, but definitely it will be a factor, even though it has to be controlled, because as Mika say, we need to humanize it, but we need to humanize the technology without trying to imitate human behavior, so make the technology trying to imitate human behavior, because then it's even, let's say, worst. So that's definitely one point. Then again, in talking as architectural designer, I cannot split this. So how the technology will invest the final object, which is, let's say, the building, or from the process, because, you know, algorithms are the basic tool, the first step of almost all the projects that I've shown you today. So let's say that the constant progress and definition and let's say complexity of algorithm and softwares for architectural design that can handle even, let's say, complexer algorithm definitely set the path for the, you know, for the future of architecture. So again, I maybe I repeated too many times this topic, but for us it's very important. It's not only the tool or the devices to be, let's say, included in the design of the space, but it's also the process of the design, which is, let's say, influenced, or it is, let's say, shared with the progress of technology that will, you know, show the path for the future of architecture.
Right. So the process of design and you know, the integration of technology in terms of algorithms, in terms of the design softwares, is something which we are going to see increasingly in the future. Amit, what do you have to say? What technologies that you see are going to be the major game changer for design and architecture?
I think as far as residential is concerned, companies are slowly approaching the point where they can take your data and they can sort of design an atmosphere at home around your behavior. Just to give you a very small example, I mean, I can currently program my hot water pump at home to switch on and off at certain times, and I don't have to do it on an everyday basis. It's a very crude example, but if I could, you know, enter my home and say, you know, and I can say, good evening, Google, and, you know, lights come on and other stuff happens. I think it's at a very rudimentary stage right now. So there is potential there for it to become more user-friendly, you know, without having to maybe talk to it, just simply by knowing that your reach, maybe using location data or something, you can, you know, optimize the experience for the home user. I think there's a far more greater potential in commercial buildings, because commercial buildings have more regular patterns of usage. If you look at you know, offices, if you look at hospitals, etc., especially hospitality, there's far more potential. You know, when a guest leaves, you know, the room can shut down, and right now you pull out the key card and it happens. I mean, but it's easier to predict now, simply by, you know, where the user has the key card on him. If he leaves the building, then the room doesn't need to be, you know, switched on anymore. So I think the potential for occupancy-based energy and lighting control is far greater in commercial. Of course, you know, it's all very funky to have it at home, but I think the bulk of the energy usage happens in these large commercial buildings, and that's where we should focus our energy.
That's right. That's what said. Data is the new oil. So I think the data and the algorithms, as Giovanni mentioned, is something which we are going to see enhanced use of that in design and architecture. While we are looking at the process of design, we will consider the data that we have. We will consider the algorithms that we had. Milka, you heard both the speakers. You know, so what, according to you, as a product designer, is, you know, in terms of technology that we will see as a, you know, game changer, or, you know, the design influencing the product technology, how you will see it?
Well, I think I think there's a certain thing about fluidity of spaces. Like there's also, like we tend to traditionally talk about, spaces that are, rather residential or commercial. But if you look at the interiors and the way that we live these spaces, I mean, it's quite fluid in itself. I mean, a hotel room starts to look at like your lounge area. Your also the offices are now looking more like the homes. So there's this fluidity between the spaces, because also the role of the space might change throughout the day. We're also changing the way that we use the workspaces. So it's not necessarily that we're statically there 8 hours a day. Now we might have this kind of sometimes we work at home, sometimes we work there. Also, these are going to be changing the way that we use these spaces. So I think we need to be very carefully following this kind of trend. And then, of course, I cannot say that we don't need to also, the pandemic has made us stop and look at the effects on the environment. So that's also something that we need to look into in terms of our processes, in terms of the materials that we use, in terms of the energy that we use for all our products. So these are the two big things that I see in the future.
So rather than technology, it is the fluidity of now functions or the spaces, and also the environmental aspect that will be the determining factors for our future designs and buildings. So those were some very interesting questions. Milka, I'll just take a interconnected question. Is our speaker spoke about standardization, interoperability, scalability of products. So how Living Now, which we just heard from Emmanuel, is the latest product from Legrand, how is it compatible with the traditional wiring systems or the electric systems that we might have in our homes?
Well, that's the wonderful part of it, because you can kind of smartify your home without changing the wiring, and you can then add functionalities also step by step, which I think is also a big change, because before, if you talked about the automation in general, you would see that it's something that was only for a few, and not for everyone, and you would have to do a whole lot of work to make it done, and you would have to see it as a project that is all done in one go. But here with a new smart system, you can do it step by step. So you can start by a room and then move forward as you like. So you don't have to do it all at the same time. You can start, you can test it, then you can add bit by bit. So it's also it's a different kind of way of making your home intelligent and serve your needs in a better way.
Okay, that's fantastic. So you don't need to just go out and pull out all the wires. You can just go about phase-wise as per your convenience. So that's a good news. But thanks, Architect Giovanni Podesta, Architect Amit Khanna, and designer Milka Escola for sharing your views and for answering the audience questions. In fact, we have so many other questions which we have not been able to take because of the limitation of time. But let me assure our audience that we will take these questions with our speakers, get them answered offline, and we'll share with them. But before I give my vote of thanks to all our speakers, let's just take a look at a short AV. Can we have the AV, please?
Innovation is not only technology, but vision that can anticipate future habits. We are proud to introduce our latest vision, Living Now. We have created a product depicting the most successful evolution of our design. We have created the first cover plate where the cover plate disappears. An essential shape, where elegant materials and details give life to a unique object. But that was not enough. We have also revolutionized the control. Now, full touch. Living Now is suitable for any system. As usual. Now aesthetic part and functional part are separate for always perfect installations. The cover plate can be adapted to any wall. Total versatility. Conceived to fully enhance your style with the best materials and finishes. With Living Now, you can now have smart functions on a traditional electric system. The home can now be managed with one simple action, a voice command, click, or even remotely, allowing us more time and comfort, helping us to reduce consumptions and feel safer.
And I don't know north from south, no compass for me.
You can just get on with what you're doing, while objects meet your needs. Wherever you want.
Hey Google, switch on the entrance hall light.
Alexa, welcome me home.
Hello, I'm so glad you're here.
Alexa, how's the weather looking tomorrow?
Hear the weather forecast for tomorrow. Partly sunny weather is expected.
Well, that was an interesting reflection on the future of our homes. On that note, I thank our distinguished speakers, Architect Giovanni Podesta, Director, Studio Fuxas, Milka Escola, Director Design, Legrand Group, and Architect Amit Khanna, Design Principal, AKDA, on behalf of Realty Plus and Legrand Group for taking out time and being with us here today, and for that lovely conversation that we had. I'm sure we, our speakers had, our audience had some very valuable takeaways from that conversation, and we got to learn a lot. A big thank you to Emanuela Figliosi as well for joining us today and sharing that very informative presentation on the product that has just now entered India. Our special thanks to Legrand India as well for presenting this knowledge sharing session for the benefit of Indian design fraternity, and to our awesome audience as well for being here, sharing their time and sending their queries. With this, we come to the end of today's session. Wish you all health and well-being and look forward to seeing you all in person very soon. For now, thank you and goodbye. Thanks, Architect Amit Khanna. Thanks, Architect Giovanni Podesta. And thanks, Milka Escola, as well as thanks, Emanuela Figliosi, for being here with us today. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.